and pride that I'm feeling at this moment. I think I can begin my speech by expressing my gratitude to the fellow members of our society, our EPOS family, and without doubt to our respectable President, Ms. Eastwood, my dear friend, Deborah. I've had difficult times since Deborah shared her idea with me. Great astonishment, difficult to contain excitement, indescribable pride, anxiety that I couldn't live up to this just place in me, a little bit of awe. But as I dare give this speech in your presence, I implore you ahead of time to pardon my boldness and forgive me for my mistakes. So, Paediatric Orthopaedics, a bridge between cultures, countries, even continents. The 20th century was a difficult time for our world. In this century, the old continent tested pain unlike in its history, witnessed cruelty greater than ever. The first half of the century was spent on wars and destruction. During the second half, the world toiled under the weight of anger, hatred, lack of communication, and dividedness. As this century came to a close, the idea of a new world, a different world, where there were no boundaries, where old enmities were forgotten, one that was equal and fair, had begun to enter our minds. The idea of progress and philosophy of enlightenment promised us that as material prosperity, the domination of the scientific worldview, and technological advancement increased, individuals and people would free themselves of their particular identities, evolve to adopt a more universal one, and gain a more cosmopolitan spirit. Unfortunately, this did not happen. And of course it could not, because consumerism stimulated demand by seducing people. But resources were limited, and those that exist were divided unequally. Unmet demand stoked anger, withdrawal, and hatred. In the end, intolerant and wrathful patriotism grew. The real reason behind patriotism return is not the rediscovery of the people's roots or nationalities, but the unmet demand and disappointment of failure of expected quality of life. In the past century, the relationship of dominance between the North and South, the affluent and the poor, was what allowed you to live in your country and your homes well-fed and content. The nature of this relation has, however, shifted. Capitalism has not only increased inequality, but also caused a switch of stable positions between outside and the inside. The outsiders can now see everything that goes on with the insiders, what they eat, what they wear, how they live, what kind of medical treatment they receive. Therefore, the classic paradigms of dominance and the ways of policing the relationship between the rich and the poor have faded. The classic strategies of security have lost their meaning. No longer is it easy to shut our doors tightly and live in peace in our homes. And how hopeful we were when the wall came down. Looking back now, as we watch a new wall erected in a different corner of the earth every day, we're tempted to wonder whether we were ready to have the wall came down at all, or whether we were crushed under the rubble. If a wall is built, it is because of its builders think it will protect them of something. Fear is the driving force. The truth lies in conquering that fear, for as long as fear lives, a new wall will rise up for every wall that comes down. Walls that are made of stone and cement are difficult, but not impossible to overcome. As long as the walls that separate us are not made of hatred, anger, and intolerance, they are not indestructible. But is there no hope? Is there no way of overcoming this hurdle of dispelling of darkness? There is hope. We must form partnership to produce and use biological, material, and scientific assets. Or the Noah that will save us from the great flood will never come. Rather than an ark to protect us from the typhoon and carry us to safe shores, what we need is a bridge that will bring us closer together. Humankind requires new bridges, not new walls. Bridges that minimize distances, overcome boundaries, and make life easier. And not a bridge where one of the cruelest wars in history began, or one that has been made the target of enmity and defaced in order to seize the communication between two worlds. Dictionaries define the word bridge as a structure built so that the transportation route and cross above an obstacle. It is a metaphor frequently utilized in literature, art, and philosophy. As a metaphor, a bridge between people enables the passage of ideas. It connects people who are in different places. It enables help to be connected. It opens up the opportunity for people to be helped. It reduces isolation. It is a more efficient way of getting to another point. It increases the range of options available, and so the list continues. However, it shouldn't be forgotten that what a bridge needs first and foremost is two solid piers. If there is a lack of enthusiastic, passionate, believing individuals who wish to use this bridge to meet those on the opposite side, opposite shore, what good is a bridge? Once the decision to walk across has been made and physical distances are overcome, emotional distances become easily spent. The great Turkish poet Yunus Emre calls to us from many centuries ago. He says, "Come, let us all be friends once. Let us make life easy on us. Let us be lovers and loved ones. The earth shall be left to no one." We are physicians, a group that has dedicated their lives, their careers to service the world's most innocent, most sinless creatures, children. From the first day of our careers, we have promised to our ancestor Hippocrates that we will help everyone who requires it, regardless of race, religion, or language, to pass along our knowledge to those that come after us. We can assume leadership in mending broken bridges, of building new ones to span the distance between people, countries, and continents that seems to grow ever more every day, to help our century overcome the depression it has been suffering of. We can use our professional knowledge, surgical experience, and educational assets to take a step beyond being just a salt to a wound, a medicine for pain. We can use our powers to set the foundation for damaged bridges between countries, continents, or create some form that have never existed. This may be a small step for us, but it will be a great one for humankind. When you look at the past 10, 15 years through this perspective, there are many events that should make orthopedic surgeons, especially pediatric ones, proud. Ohinaba Boachiache's unprecedented focus project, Kay Wilkins's tireless, endless treks from Haiti to Iraq, everything Shafiq Pirani and Norbert Penny have done for poverty in Africa, Elhanan's diligence that keeps him ready with a pack on his back for catastrophe victims around the world, David Spiegel's dedication that has driven him to spend a quarter of a year in Nepal for many years, Alain and Andre's accomplishments in Cambodia. That should all go down in history as exemplary achievements that allow us to feel pride in our identities as pediatric orthopedic surgeons, physicians, humans. Those whose names I couldn't remember or I'm unaware of are no less worthy of our recognition. I applaud Lynn Staley's Global Health Project, Bob Bernstein's Mobile Pediatric Orthopedic Education Program, which are endeavors analogs to the saying of teaching a person how to fish rather than giving them fish. All these names have toiled with great diligence for years to generously share humankind's common value of knowledge and skill to give back to people less fortunate than us what they deserve. Europe has become the crib for ideas, ideologies, and systems that define the modern world. Throughout history, goodness has thrived in this soil, but unfortunately, so has the bad. This is why Europe is most responsible for everything that is happening today, positive and negative. If it is possible to overcome these problems, dispel the depression, then I'm certain that the torch to light the way will gather its flame here. And the greatest motivation will come from our old continent. As the representative of Europe and European values, EPOS can assume a prime role in tearing down walls and building up bridges. The EPOS Health Project, which we started with these feelings, has gained great momentum with the regional core curriculum courses, the first step to bring together the periphery and center of Europe together. So far, we have built new bridges to 4 countries, transmitted to them the message of we are Europe together. And we are excitedly counting down the days to 2 new destinations as well. While the RCCC project is a good beginning, it is a minor step in the final order of things. One leg of our compass rests at the heart of Europe. Everywhere, the other leg can reach us within our interest. I like to imagine that EPOS, who has acquired a respectable role of leadership with its scientific and academic identity, can lead the way for these kinds of activities as well. I have a dream. Wherever in the world there is a child that has a hand outreach for orthopedic help, EPOS should hold it, both directly and indirectly. We can reach this dream step by step with educational courses, supplying educational material, surgical and medical missionary excursions, practical trainings of local physicians and healthcare personnel, giving them opportunity of visiting our clinics and observing the modern procedure at our home. I like to imagine that EPOS could act as a coordinator, facilitator, and initiator for the already existing efforts of individuals and smaller organizations. All those that think these are mere dreams and I am mere dreamer, I would like to remind of a quote by William Russell. The greatest achievements have been done by people who had the greatest dreams. I'm aware that ours is no small undertaking. Reaching our objectives outside of geographic Europe especially requires many of our colleagues to volunteer their service. We need many more hands to carry EPOS mission higher. If you are not there, we are one less. After all that's been said, as the afterword, the one that sleeps while his neighbor starves is not one of ours. Respectfully ours. Thank you.
He just never lets you down. He is the consummate professional and a great friend.